Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Power Over Tomorrow. I'm your host and resident financial advisor, Tyrone T.S. Mitchell, and we are coming to you courtesy of T.S. Mitchell Financial LLC, your independent and trusted registered investment advisor, specializing in wealth management for your insurance, your investments, taxes, and financial planning needs. Remember, the information that we do share here on Power Over Tomorrow is for educational purposes and is not meant for the solicitation or the promotion of any particular stock or investment. Stocks, investments, and things of that nature do have risk, and unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. So continue to hit us up on our Facebook page, T.S. Mitchell Financial, and our page Power Over Tomorrow, as well as continue to follow us on Twitter at T.S. Mitchell Power. Our website is tsmitchell.com, and we definitely want to hear from you. Just shoot us an email at solutions@tsmitchell.com. Of course, we definitely want to thank our sponsors who help make this program available to you. You know, our sponsors take time to really invest, and we want to make sure that they get their due justice. So, boy, here we go again. I always have it, then the message comes up and pushes my stats away. But you know what? I know I'm up here, but I just want to make sure I say their names correctly. Here we are. Zelina, Health, Wellness, and Fitness. Paper to Films Production. Revolution Mills, and Renovations. So thank you, sponsors, for helping making this possible. Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We want to speak with you today about this topic. You know, we're watching things happen especially this time of the year. Well, I typically remind my clients, you know, things work in a secular fashion. What goes up can come down. What is down will eventually try to work itself back up. And these are the things that we have to recognize when we're dealing with different aspects of the market. And of course, we always say that there's not just one market. We know the stock market is the most exciting because it's the most active as we see in regards to the reporting. But we understand that there are several markets and money moves facilitates between the markets. Of course, just a brief overview. We have stock market, we have bond market, we have money market, we have mortgage market, and we have foreign exchange. So those five markets, money continues to move from one to the other. So that's why it's important to have a portfolio that is not only diversified, but the allocation is proper too. Now, you may say, well, what's the difference between diversification and allocation? Well, diversification is what the actual portfolio does itself. It has money in different aspects, not just all in one basket. Now, allocation is what you do. So when you send in your money, whether if you send, let's say you send in $100, how do you want that $100 divided up? You want $20 to go into stocks, $20 to go into bonds, $15 to go into guaranteed or conservative. So all the different places where you put your money, then those individual accounts where the money is going to is diversified between the different levels of stocks, different levels of bonds, the different levels of cash equivalents. All right, so that's what diversification and allocation, that's what they are. But one thing that I definitely want to bring out today, and that is the topic for the day. And our topic today is 4 really good reasons to invest, not divest. Hear me again. 4 really good reasons to invest, not divest. Now, I'm going to take the latter part first. And the reason for that is because when we think about the volatility in the market, I said it is viable, okay? Viability during volatility. All right, viability during volatility. I know it's a tongue twister, but it's worth trying to say and do. Now, the viability is when something is of value, when something should be done, when something can be seen, when something is able to produce. That's viable. All right. And so when you have a portfolio that is built on viability, you want it to be able to produce. And the other aspect during volatility. Now, the reason why you want to be viable during the volatile points, volatility is the fluctuation of pricing of the market, of even of values when you look at on your statements. Why is that important? Well, the best way that I can describe it is think of going to the hospital and having an EKG done. If your EKG is like this, flat line, and you hear, doo, be careful, be careful, because that shows there's no activity in your heart. That shows that something is dead. All right, so it has to get an electric shock or to really boost it back up. Well, but when you see on that EKG, doo, 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 going up and down, that shows a healthy, active heart. Now, what you want is for the heart to be active and strong, not to have a flat line on that EKG. I liken the investing to the same way. You don't want your investments just to be flat across the board. And the reason for that is because then it finds itself subjected to a risk called inflation risk and another risk called purchasing power risk. See, while if your investment is going straight across like a flat line on the EKG, there are other elements that are continuing to go up. One element that goes up is inflation. Another element that goes up is the cost of living, which is related to inflation. And then on top of that, you always have to count the aspect of taxes as it applies to your investment or to your return. So if someone is making a 2% return and inflation is growing at 3%, you're really behind on your purchasing power by a percentage point. What do we mean by that? Well, if something is worth $100 and you invest and you put something in $100 and you only have $100, but tomorrow or the day after or the week after you go to buy that same product again, and now it costs you $105, $106 to buy the same thing you used to buy yesterday for $100. That means your money didn't grow with the cost of living, with inflation, with your purchasing power. All right. So when you're looking at investing, you want to make sure your investments are set up in a way that they are going to help you. I've often said that there are two ways to make money legally, and that is you at work or your money at work. When our money is at work, it can work not only just domestically, but also on foreign exchange and internationally. It can work 24 hours. Now, there are points and times early in my career when the children came. Yeah, I seemed like I was working round the clock, 24 hours a day. But you know what happened? No matter how well I thought I was in shape, old body needs to slow down a little bit and take a rest. But with the market, with your money invested in the right places, it can go 24 hours when I can or when you can. So I want to show and talk about today, that there is viability and volatility. And the reason why I say the viability and volatility is because we have to understand the reasons for market volatility. Now, I said we're going to have 4 good reasons to invest. Well, let's look at 4 reasons for the return of the market volatility. Now, when we think of market volatility, we have to think of where we are today. Well, until early 2018, stocks were enjoying their longest period without a 5% pullback. So in other words, during the time of President Obama, stocks were just going up, going up, going up. Even though folks were saying, oh, it's the worst time since the Great Depression and the world is this. And you know what? Some of that was propaganda. But then some of it was, I guess was correct. But the point that we're saying here right now, that while many folks on Main Street, all right, and in our homes, while it may have been not as I guess easy during that period of time, the market, the investments companies were still growing, and they were growing leaps and bounds. Now, we did a segment a while ago. It was based upon a research paper that I did for college class, and we talked about the economic disparity. When you think of the economic disparity that exists, a lot of the economic disparity comes from folks not taking advantage of opportunities to invest. When people say, well, I don't want any risk, but yet they leave their money in accounts that are making less than 1%. And then the banks take that money that they're putting in, paying them less than 1%, and then put the money elsewhere where the banks or the financial institutions are making somewhere up to, whatever it is, double digits, or even double the money they're paying you. You're still having to struggle with keeping up with inflation. You're still having to struggle with having your money work to its fullest potential. So what we want to do is begin to understand the concept of using volatility for our growth. Now, an illustration is this. You have 3 houses, 3 homes, all of equal value, let's say with all things being equal. And the first house is below market value. Let's say all the houses are worth $200,000. I'm going to keep the number simple. All 3 houses are worth $200,000. The house, or the first house, house number 1, that house is listed as below the market by 10%. So it's down 10%. So it's worth, you paid $200 for it, or it is valued at $200, but it's only being reported at $180. The second house, number 2, the house in the middle, it is valued at $200, and if you want it or you get it, market value is $200. The third house, it is up 10%. So now it is listed at $220,000. So my question here is that when is it a good time to buy something worth $200,000? When it is below at 180, when it is at 200, or when it is above at 220. The best time to buy something, and I'm sure you will agree, if it's valued at 200 and you can get it for 180,000, that's the best time to buy. When is the best time to sell? Something that's worth $200,000, is it when it's down 10%, when it's at par, or when it is above at 10%? Well, the best time to buy something worth $200,000 is not when it's down to 180, or even when it's breaking even at par, at 200. But the best time to sell something that is worth 200,000 is when it is up in value. So if the house is valued at 200, but it's selling at 220 because it's up 10%, that's the best time to sell it. Now, how is it that we understand the concept of buy low and sell high? We understand that concept. And we say, yeah, we want to buy low. We want to buy it when it's cheap, because no one truly sits there and says, well, just think about during the holiday seasons, or during any time you got to buy something, even when you're shopping for food. All right, you go to your grocery store and you say, wow, look at here. I can get this item, 10% off plus the coupon. Are you going to say, well, you know what? I'm going to not use the coupon, and I'm going to wait till it goes back up to regular price? Does that make sense? No. So if we can understand that concept when it comes to buying groceries, if we can understand that concept of buy low, sell high, when it comes to looking at our home purchasing and automobile purchases, those things, then why is it that we can't understand that, or we are reluctant, okay, when we are reluctant to exercise that same concept when it comes to investing money? The reason is because we see changes too often, and it begins to mess with our psyche. And you think, well, I'm losing money. See, remember now, many times when you're dealing with the financial aspects of things, it is what I call an intangible. And my position as a wealth manager is to help people make the intangible tangible. That's right. So those things that we have a future. All right. We're not there in the future. We're not touching the future right now. That's an intangible thing. But we make it tangible by putting things in position to help us reach the future. All right. So here's an intangible concept. We want to send our children to college. All right. It's a goal. It's an intangible goal because we see it, but they're not actually there yet. So when they're in college, then it becomes a tangible thing because now they're at the brick and mortar, all right, or they're actually receiving the grades that they work for, all right. And so these things are what we have to wrestle with as individuals, as financial advisors, as clients. We have to wrestle with the concept of making the intangibles tangible. So when we think about the market volatility, when we think about the concept of buy low, sell high, when we're dealing with things that fluctuate, and all we have is a piece of paper to really tell us whether or not we're doing good or bad, well, then that's when the concept to say goes out the window. And now what happens is the psyche takes over, the emotions and the irrational investment approaches take over. So this is what we have to do. We have to understand. And the better we understand, the better we can command our future. 4 reasons for the return of market volatility, because we want to understand what? We want to understand that viability and volatility. Like I said before, it was in the early 2018, stocks were enjoying a long period of time without a 5% pullback on nearly 90 years. It says, but in early February, I said that calm came to a sudden, decisive end as the Standard & Poor's 500 index fell more than 6% during the first 3 trading days of the month. All right, so the stock market, the S&P 500, Standard & Poor's, it's an index, and what an index is, they take 500 companies from different sectors, different parts of the industry, different industries. It can be transportation, it can be finance, utilities, healthcare, automobile, all different types of industries, and they basically try to take the best 500 throughout, and then they hold those 500s and they watch the growth or the divestment of those accounts, and they watch them grow, the increase and the decrease, and they base their approach. It's not a rocket science, but it's a benchmark. And typically, when you're dealing with investments such as mutual funds, such as exchange traded funds, they use the S&P 500 and others that are out there as benchmarks to see how they are growing in comparison with them. Now, when the market made its correction, it said by February 8th, stocks had fallen more than 10% from their January highs, leaving many investors to wonder how things could change so fast. Days later, sentiment has shifted yet again, and stocks traded higher. Now, the reason why things trade so fast is because money is moving. That's it. You know, what goes up comes down. All right. What's down goes back up. Things are constantly moving. So when you see things changing fast, just recognize this. No one can predict the future. The future is constantly going to change. But what we have to do is put ourselves in position to understand that these changes will occur. And as the changes are, or as the volatility occurs, it is not a time to be afraid, but to be aware. The best time to buy something of value is when it is down. Now, how do you determine if it's of value? Well, we first have to understand the aspects or the reason why there is volatility. Now, the first part of volatility comes from inflation fears. When we fear inflation, that causes money to shift. Now, the reason why people fear inflation is because the cost of things go up. So where it is that when the market is growing, we typically want a slow growth on inflation. The reason is because if inflation grows faster, then what happens, then that means that folks have to spend more money doing other things. So their cost of living increases. And when they have a cost of living increase, the money or the amount of money that is available to be invested decreases. So for the market to grow and continue to grow, there has to be a holding, a steady rate on inflation. Because when inflation grows too fast, cost of living goes up, and people retain their money and put their money in areas that they may need it in a short period of time or intermediate period of time, as opposed to investing for a longer period of time. So when inflation comes in, it drives a level of fear in the market and in the investor. All right, it says here, in January, the employment report, which was released in February, showed an increase in long stagnant wage growth, creating fears of accelerating inflation and higher interest rates. Now, when interest rates go up on our bank accounts, that means folks say, well, you know what? I don't need to invest in stock markets, or I don't need to invest in the markets because I can make the same type of interest on my bank accounts without having that level of risk, that perceived level of risk. And then on top of that, inflation also rise on the creditor or on the lending side. So folks will not invest as much, and they will also have to pay out more in areas of credit cards, in areas of auto loans, in areas of mortgage interest loans, okay, and places where they have to pay interest going out. That means there's less money for the market. So inflation fears. Now, the second one is what we call algorithmic trading. Yes, that's a tongue tire. All right. Algorithmic trading is a type of investing involving certain triggers to buy and sell stocks by using computers to make large trades quickly. It has been estimated that algorithmic trading is responsible for half of all daily activity in the S&P 500 index. Now, this algorithmic trading is basically allowing computers to buy bulk. Okay, they buy blocks. They have the money, and the money is sitting there, but they're trading blocks of investments, which typically will cause a concern in the market. This algorithmic trading, it says it's pushing what we call pushing the button on the buy and sell programs can be many, but market watchers say some sell programs are activated with other areas, such as the treasury yields. When they hit a certain approach, computers typically act faster without any remorse than investors, human investors. Computers do not have buyer's remorse. Human investors do. They're buying a stock or they're buying an investment or buying an investment, and then they'll say, well, wait a minute, should I hold on to it? Did I do the right thing? And sometimes they may even call back within the day and try and sell it back or buy it back. So there's buyer's remorse. But when you're dealing with algorithmic trading, it is trading by computers on large blocks that trigger money movement in markets. We said that there are 5 markets out there. So when money moves from the stock, it's going to go somewhere. If it's not in the stock, it may hit there it is. Get that one down. It may hit the bond market. If it's not in the bond, it may hit the mortgage. If it's not in the mortgage, it may hit the money. If it's not money, it may hit foreign exchange. But money is going to move somewhere. When we think about the volatility, we often just think about the stock market. I venture to say that we focus on placing money in more than one area because market volatility will be there, and it is not something that we need to be afraid of, but we need to be aware of. The third reason for market volatility is what they call the end of easy money. The end of easy money is this: the drop in prices also may be tied to the end of monetary easing. The United States Federal Reserve, along with other major global central banks, pursued a policy of low interest rates. Remember, we talked about the interest rates? Pursued a policy of low interest rates through qualitative easing for recent years. Quantitative easing is this: quantitative easing occurs when the central banks work to lower interest rates in an attempt to spur economic growth. While the Federal Reserve announced the end of quantitative easing last fall, the markets may just be feeling the ramifications of the end of the stimulus program. So when we hear about quantitative easing means they're trying to stimulate economic growth. And to stimulate economic growth, they keep the interest rates down. What we said, one reason why there's market volatility is because inflation fears. They're fearing interest rates going up. So if the interest rates go up, what happens? Folks may not put money in markets or may not invest as much as they should. Why? Because they do not feel that they need to truly stimulate the economy. And I tell folks, when you see investing, or when you go shopping per se, when you go shopping, sometimes leave your credit cards and your checkbooks at home, because you don't have to stimulate economic growth all by yourself. Too many of us try and stimulate the economy all by ourselves. So remember now, we must be diligent in understanding that volatility can be good for us. It is like exercising. When your body is exercised, yes, you may have some pain you go through, but you still want to exercise because it makes you stronger. Our bodies heal in recovery. And when we're dealing with our markets and we're dealing with our portfolios and trying to dispel the disparity, we heal during recovery. So let us heal right and let us build right. There are reasons why we say there is viability and volatility. Understand the volatility. Inflation fears, algorithmic trading, the end of easy money, and the fourth one is natural market cycles. That's right, natural market cycles. You heard me say it before. What goes up comes down. It's the natural cycle. Folks call me, hey, Mr. Mitchell, hey, TS, what's the market doing? The market is doing what the market does. It goes up, it goes down. How are you diversified? How are you allocated? You know, market corrections are a natural part of investment cycles. So what we hear, and oh, the market dropped 300 points today. Oh, the market went up 500 points today. The market dropped this, and the market, look, that's the natural cycle. Remember the EKG machine. If your market is flatlined, it is dead, no growth. But if your market goes up and down, in the long run, it is healthier and more consistent and stronger than it would be if it was a flatline EKG. Now, what do? When the market goes up, you reap your profits and you put them away. When the market goes down, you invest more. So because it eventually works itself back up. Understand market cycles. You know, since the end of World War II, let me point this out. Since the end of World War II, there have been 76 corrections of 5 to 10%. 26 what we call pullbacks of 10 to 20%. 8 retreats of 20 to 40%. 3 drawdowns greater than 40%. A long-range view can be comforting as you remember that fluctuations have happened many times before. We've been through this before, and we're going to go through it again. So remember, fluctuations in the market, natural market cycles. Market movement in the coming weeks, in the coming days, in the coming months are impossible to predict. You know, through continued volatility is likely, your investment portfolio should reflect a few things. It should reflect your goals. It should reflect your time horizon. It should reflect your risk tolerance. So don't focus on the volatility as the reason for investing or not investing, but allow your goals to be known and understood, and then you match the markets, the investments to meet your goal, okay, to meet your time horizon, to meet your risk tolerance. That's how we make that intangible tangible. So remember, when is a good time to invest? Now is the appointed time. Invest with knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Knowledge is knowing what? Knowledge is knowing how to do it. Wisdom is knowing what to do. And understanding is knowing why you're doing it. Viability and volatility. Understand it, use it properly, and make it work. We are going to take a quick break right now. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the second part of all of this. And that is the 4 good reasons to continue to invest.
Oh, baby, yeah, yeah. And we gon' make love till the morning.
Bring your sexy body here, girl, and lie next to me. I can't wait, baby.
Sha-da-da-da-da-da-da. Sit down, relax. Let me rub your shoulders and relieve your stress. I'm trying to get next to you, baby. Roses in your water, just to set the mood. Turn off the TV, cause I'm trying to get next to you. I'm trying to get it any way I can. I wanna be your man, baby. Let me love you down. Let me love you down. I like it, baby. That means I love you, girl. We gon' make love to the morning. We gon' be making love. We gon' be sweating and moaning. And you gon' be calling my name. We gon' be making love, baby. And you gon' be telling me stop. Don't stop, don't you stop. You really want me to keep going. And you gon' be calling my name, girl. Calling my name, oh yeah.
Right beside me, boo. Got a few things I like to say to you. Laying your body close to me on a real life fantasy. Ooh, and I rub my hands down your neck, girl. When you're close to me while you're soaking wet. What a real life fantasy. Just you and me, baby.
I wanna be your man, baby. Let me love you down.
Let me love you down, girl. I love you, girl.
We gon' make love to the morning.
I love,
we gon' be sweating and moaning. And you gon' be calling
and
my
this
name,
good love is gonna
girl.
be all night long.
And you gon' be telling me stop,
You gon'
girl.
be telling me to
You really
stop,
want me to keep
baby.
going. And you gon' be calling my name, girl. Calling my name, baby. That means I love you, girl. We gon' make love till the morning. We gon' be making love, baby. And you gon' be calling my name, girl.
My name, call me by my name.
And you gon' be telling me stop, girl.
Stop,
You really want me to keep going.
We gon' be,
And you gon' be calling my name, girl.
baby,
We gon' make love till the morning. We gon' be sex in the morning. And you keep telling me to stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it. Go deeper. That's what she's saying to me. I'm trying to get it any way I can. I wanna be your man, baby. Let me love you down. Shoo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. That means I love you, girl.
Ladies and gentlemen, to Power Over Tomorrow. I am the host, Tyrone T.S. Mitchell, and today we are speaking on viability and volatility. Viability and volatility as it applies to understanding the opportunities to invest your money. We discussed the 4 reasons for the return of market volatility, and now we want to talk about 4 reasons for 4 good reasons to invest and not divest. And we understand divesting is moving money away from something. We don't want to do that. We want to have a portfolio mix that is diversified. We want to have a portfolio mix that is well allocated, and we want to take advantage of the market fluctuations. And the reason why we want to take advantage of those things is to help increase our economic foundation. Let's bring this to true to life type of things. This term that they use, that many folks use, called gentrification. And when I say that, what do you think of? Many folks say, well, they think of people moving into Black neighborhoods and taking over, okay? But what they are looking at, and what developers look at, and this gentrification, what it is that they see an investment. They see a community, they see an area that is low in value, low in market value, okay, but high in potential value. When they look at the location, they look at the buildings, they look at all the things, and they say, well, you know what? We can go in and buy X amount of real estate for sometimes pennies on the dollar. And when we get in there, we're going to build this up, and we're going to charge premium dollar. There used to be a time where folks did not want to go to Harlem. And then all of a sudden, when Lower Manhattan and many other areas became, the price point in those areas became so high, is that folks were saying, well, we got to go somewhere. And then they started to slowly move up into Harlem, Washington Heights, and the South Bronx, and all those areas. And then once they moved there, they began to buy up the area, buy up the buildings in what was once empty buildings. And now some people are saying, well, wait a minute, we're being pushed out because now the rent stabilization is being removed. We're being forced out, and the stories go on. And I have plenty of clients throughout the 5 boroughs of New York and many other places in the country. And they talk about sometimes they feel this gentrification is really trying to force them out. There was a community, and I remember this. There was a community on Long Island called Long Beach. Long Beach is on the beach on the beach of Long Island, and on that shoreline, which is a barrier beach, there were old, broken down houses all along. What happened was I guess the city council decided they're gonna revise. And when they did that, they started moving people out who've been living there 40, 50 years, who own their houses. All right. They changed so many things, including the real estate property tax. And they changed a lot of things. And the fight was that many people were losing their homes and they didn't know why. Well, the laws or the rules of the land had changed. So now when they was able to get those people out, then came the multi-million-dollar condominiums. Gentrification. So when you think about investing, you have to see things from an investor's viewpoint. All right, the bird's eye view of an investor. And many of us often don't take that approach when it comes to where we put our money. All right, you can put your money in an area that is highly populated, okay, or in an area that is, or I would better say, highly saturated. But there are times where you need to look at investments or placements of your money at undervalued areas, underappreciated areas. Why? Because now you give yourself the greater chance for growth. So there's always a reason to invest. Whether you invest for the short term, intermediate term, or long term, you make sure your investments match 3 key factors: your goals, your time horizon, and your risk tolerance. So your goals, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? Make it a goal. Don't just say it, write it down. And when you have that goal, and then your goal will be broken up to whether it's a short-term goal, meaning anywhere between 0 to 3 years, whether it's an intermediate goal, anywhere between 4 to maybe 7 years, or long-term goals, anywhere between 8, 9, or 10 years or more. You must break down your goals into those segments, because when it's time to invest, you want to find the investment that match your goals. Do not have an investment that says its objective is to preserve your money and with minimum risk or minimum fluctuation, and no opportunity for greater investment growth. Don't invest that way if you have 25 or 30 years to invest or expected time horizon. That way, what you're doing is this. If you have to drive from New York to California, what's that, 3,000 miles, okay? And you only put a quarter tank of gas in your car to start. Now, you will get there. Yes, you will. You put a quarter tank of gas in your car and you drive on not the main interstates, but you drive where? You drive on the back streets. Yes, you will eventually get from New York to California, but in essence, it will take you more time, it will cost you more money, and it may cost you more headache. The reason is because with a quarter tank of gas, and you got 3,000 miles to go, and you really only got 30 miles worth of gas in your car, you're going to have to be stopping time and time and time again if all you do is fill it up on a quarter tank. So when you have a time horizon of 10 years or more, and you're constantly only investing in areas that are geared for short-term growth, that is like starting your trip with starting a 3,000-mile trip with 30 miles worth of gas in your car. You need to find the investment that's suitable for your goals. So if your goal is to drive from New York to California, that 3,000 miles, the first thing you need to do is to fill up your tank, tap it off, fill it up to the max, and then let that tank of gas carry you as far as it can. So you got 3,000 miles to go and you fill it up, you may be able to get not 30 miles, but 300 miles. Now you got 10% of the way. All right? So you got 300 miles on that tank of gas. So what do you do? So before that tank of gas goes out, all right, then you what? You fill it up again. So now you're not having to stop every 30 miles, but now you're able to travel a distance and go 300 miles before you have to refill. And you do it that way. So when you do it that way, you are matching. You're matching your I guess your investment with your goals. So if you have 10 years or more before you need access to that money, or before that money should be adequately used, then give yourself the investments that match that. Now, conversely, if you find yourself at getting closer to your California, and you find yourself not needing to fill up the tank anymore, that's okay. Because the closer you get to your goal, the more you want to begin to what? Move money from the long-term investment to the intermediate to the short term. So if you're no longer a person who needs to have a 10-year or 15-year time horizon, but now you're down to the last 5 years of your goal, before you need to tap into your money. That's when you start moving your money. When we talk about allocation, you start allocating back to an area or to an area that has less volatility or less need for long-term growth. And then you build that portfolio. Allocation is essential. So there's always a good reason to invest, but we have to understand that we must make our money make money. Even when the markets are down, money is still being made. I give an illustration of during the Great Depression. Let me reverse that. When you look at the skylines of our major cities, New York, Chicago, LA, when you look at the skylines of many of those major cities, when were the buildings typically built? They were built during the Great Depression. Right after the Great Depression, right after the market crash in 1928, almost 100 years ago, all right? But when we think about those buildings, in other words, money was being made that somebody had to build the buildings. Somebody had to build the Chrysler building. Someone had to build the Empire State Building. Someone had to build all those buildings that are there. So therefore, money was being moved. What we have to understand is that diversification allows our money to be where money is going to be facilitated. That's how you're able to make money during a depression, during a recession, during a downtime. So when we see this volatility, the volatility is an opportunity for your money to be viable for your future. That sounds so good, I gotta say that again. Volatility is an opportunity for your money to be viable for your future. So when we find that opportunity, don't go in afraid, but go in aware. See, we talk about the 4 reasons that there is volatility. Well, now we want to speak on the 4 reasons to invest. Number 1, make money on your money. Make money on your money. If you're able to get an investment for a lower price and you hold that investment to some degree, that's what real estate developers do when they go into communities and do gentrification. Their goal is not truly about the community, but it is to make money on their money. They'll spend $1 million on some land, and they already projecting to make $5 or $10 million. That's what you're doing. You know, when we watch these shows, house flippers and all that stuff, well, they're making money on their money. When are we, as a community, going to start making money on our money? Now, I'm not just talking about community or as far as ethnicity wise, but I'm talking about community economically. You know, middle class folks who are trying to pull themselves up, folks who are trying to make their money make money. It's time that you have to let it work and grow. You might not have $100 million to invest, but that does not mean your money can't share in the same opportunities that are available to others. I tell folks all the time, if you can save $1.50 a day, I can show you how to get some blue chip stocks. Just $1.50 a day. That's less than a Happy Meal. All right, $1.50 a day is, for those who smoke cigarettes, what does a pack of cigarettes cost you? $3, $4 now, along with healthcare concerns. Come on, for those folks who like to drink sodas all day, you listen. You can't even buy a Lipton tea for $1.50. I go in the store the other day; it's $2 and change. All right, 16-ounce thing of tea. So now I just go get my tea bags and make my own. All right, but you have to make your money make money. And when we allow our money just to sit and with 0% interest or 1% interest, we're doing ourselves an injustice. The second thing, or the second reason to invest, would be achieve self-determination and independence. Achieve self-determination and independence. When you build wealth, you may be in a better position to pursue the lifestyle that you want. Your life can become one of possibilities and not one of limitations. Self-determination and independence. Achieve the lifestyle you want. That's why you want to invest. The third thing is you want to leave a legacy for your heirs. A legacy. You know, we have to get past the notion, God bless the child that has his own. You know what? That may make a good song to sing, all right? But when it comes to economic empowerment, a legacy has to be left. It is only scriptural, because we speak about what? Power over tomorrow talks about the biblical application of what God has blessed us with. And the Bible clearly states that a wise man will prepare for himself, his family, his children, and his children's children, not just for his living style now, but for at least 2 more generations. And a generation is what? 25 years. So for 50 years down the road, 2 generations, my children and my children's children, we need to have a plan, a legacy. That's how we build. All too often we allow the dream to die with the dreamer. All too often we allow the And the fourth thing, support causes that are important to you. Wealth can be an important tool for impacting the world in a meaningful way. So whether your passion is the environment, the arts, human welfare, or you can use your wealth to affect positive changes in your community or around the world. Positive changes. Now, how do you do that? You know, one way to do that, let's say, for instance, if you're starting to accumulate, get involved with community activities. If you see good things happening with young folks, support that. If you go back to your high school, your junior high or middle school or elementary school, where you know, through the school districts and school system you went to, and you see good children coming up through there, hey, there's nothing wrong with supporting that. Become a booster. Become, a mentor. Give back to the community. Folks often ask me, well, why do I do this? Or Mr. Mitchell, why do you do that? Many times it's a way to give back to the community that has helped me. And it's a way to continue to support the things that are important to me. So when we build our wealth, when we have investments, the first investments that we have to make, I always say, the first investment we have to make is a spiritual investment. A spiritual investment, because it is the one thing that will give us eternal growth, eternal rewards. So when we make those spiritual investments, it changes the way we think about things. The mental application of how we use money, on how we do things, it changes. Why does it need to change? Because the thought process changed. We many times move from loving money and hating and using people. We move to loving people and using money. We move to a point where we understand that leaving a legacy is essential. We understand, as it was as the parable of the ruler who left talents with his servants. In other words, they were given the task of making that money make money. So when we understand these parables, when we understand the biblical application, because we invested in our heavenly future, when we make that investment in our spiritual realm, it helps us, it teaches us, it guides us, it rewards us with our physical blessings, with the things that God has blessed us with. So the 4 reasons why we need to invest: make your money make money, self-determination with independence, leaving a legacy for your heirs, and supporting the causes that are important to you. The decision to invest is an acknowledgement that comes with certain risks. Not all investments will be done well, and some may lose money. However, without risk, there will be no opportunity to potentially earn the higher returns that can help you grow your wealth. To manage your investment risk, consider maintaining a broad diversification of your investments that reflect your personal risk tolerance, time horizon, and the nature of your financial goals. Because investments can be complicated, consider working with T.S. Mitchell Financial. We will help you, we will guide you, build that financial future that is there waiting for you. We want you to continue to hit us up on Facebook at Power Over Tomorrow, as well as our business Facebook page, T.S. Mitchell Financial. Continue to like us on Facebook, and continue to follow us on Twitter at T.S. Mitchell Power. Also, remember that the website as your resource for your financial information. We provide libraries, financial newsletters, as well as financial apps that you can download to your smart devices. So, ladies and gentlemen, put these things in motion, because the road is there. We want you to be able to make the sound financial information concerning your family, your future, and your finances. So this time has been well taken and well given, and I hope it's been well pleasing. So, ladies and gentlemen, remember this: in your walk of life, may the road rise up to meet you. May the wind forever be at your back. May the sun shine upon you with his warmth, and may the rain fall upon you ever so gently. Until the next time when we can cross each other's path, may the God of heaven hold you in the hollow of his hands. I am Tyrone T.S. Mitchell. This has been Power Over Tomorrow. Source Nation, SRN Live TV. Be well, be blessed, and be your best.